This is what I picked up today from Moscow Times. I want to get your opinion. Russia masses heavy firepower on border with Ukraine. Witness. Russia's army is massing troops and hundreds of pieces of weaponry, including mobile rocket launchers, based near the border with Ukraine. A Reuters reporter saw this week. So apparently there is a witness seeing this, and they said that they are removing the insignia of their fatigues, just as the forces spotted.
Did this witness provide photos? Are you looking at pictures right now?
No, it was...
No. Why is that? Why is it we never get any pictures? Why is it we never get any videos of this stuff? You know, a few months ago, I watched this video of a satellite landing on an asteroid hundreds of thousands of miles away from Earth. Really, it was really extraordinary. So you can't show me any pictures of the border? You can't? Why not? Now, all through the last year or so, I never get any pictures that I can actually say, that makes sense. That's true. But no, we have social media and Twitter for that. This is nonsense, okay? The Moscow Times, I haven't read that newspaper for over a decade. It's not a reliable publication in my mind. And on top of it, on Russia's side of the border, it has every right to do what it wants to do. Don't you think? That's called sovereignty. And you have Joe Biden in the last 72 hours, Vice President of the United States, saying he wants to continue arming with lethal arms to the Kiev regime. So what should Russia do? Pack up and leave? Russia is doing only what is rational to defend its own sovereignty. Any other leader that would do differently would be irresponsible.
These pro-Russian separatists, where did they come from, or were they always there?
Pro-Russian separatists. Why do you use that term?
This is the Western...
a more appropriate term would be people that are rebels and anti-Kiev rebels. Yeah. Anti-Kiev rebels against the government in Kiev. That's what they should be called.
I'm trying to understand where they came from, or if they were active even during Yanukovych.
I was with Chris Cuomo on CNN. I guess it was last summer. And, he was asking me the same question. And you know what? Because a lot of ethnic Russians live in eastern Ukraine. That's the problem. That's the problem of the post-Soviet space. In the Baltic republics, there's a lot of Russians because they found themselves on the wrong side of the border in 1991. There are millions of Russians in Kazakhstan. They found themselves on the wrong side of the border. There are hundreds of thousands of Russians in other countries in the post-Soviet space because they found themselves on the wrong side of the border, particularly Ukraine. Look, some Russian soldiers, either retired or on vacation or on leave, go to Donetsk and Lugansk. I don't deny that. I don't deny that at all. They go there of their own willingness. They want to go there to defend for whatever reason they want. Politically, their family, or because they think it's a good idea. But you don't have to send people to Ukraine. They're already there. So it's a question that doesn't make any sense. This is the problem with Ukraine. It's ethnic breakup. The East makeup. In the East, it's primarily ethnically Russians. So no one should be surprised that there are Russians in eastern Ukraine.
And how do you think it will unfold in the future? Will Poroshenko made some hints that he will take back Donetsk airport, or that he will participate in new offenses?
Look, Poroshenko is probably the least envious politician in the world right now because his patrons in Washington want war. His right-wing supporters at home, when we look at Pravy Sector and other groups like that, they want him to go to war. But he doesn't have the money to do it. And he's going to lose on both fronts. He's going to lose on the war, and he's going to lose on the economy. Look, the folks in the East, again, are they firing on Kiev? If they are firing on Kiev, I haven't heard about it. It's only one group of people getting it. It's the people of eastern Ukraine. And so after what they've experienced over the last year, they are hardened, they are prepared, and they're highly motivated. The Ukrainian army, they can't even, in some cities and towns, can't even get 6% of the total 100%, 6% call-up, where the guys will actually show up for conscription. They don't show up. There is no will to fight this war. But in the East, people volunteer, and people from Russia go across the border and volunteer. Now, that's a very different set of arrangements right here. The East will fight on, and it will not fall. One more thing I think is really important for your listeners to understand.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of Russians think Putin hasn't done enough for the people of the Donbass. He's on very thin ice because there are a lot of people that say, go in there, just send the tanks and just destroy those people. Destroy Poroshenko, go all the way to Kiev because people are so angry about what's happened here. And Putin has been prudent every step of the way. Every step of the way. Minsk 1, Minsk 2. His prudence and his patience is amazing if you just sit down and think about it logically instead of just saying, no, he's just another Hitler. Well, if you think Vladimir Putin is just another Hitler, then there is no reason to look for peace. But there is. There are people involved here. Thousands of people have been killed for absolutely no reason, and the vast majority of them are men, women, and children out of uniform.
Now that we're talking about peace, what is your opinion on how we can reach a sustainable peace for where all parties agree and basically decide to cooperate?
First of all, Ukraine must become legally at home and recognized internationally as a neutral country. It will not join any military alliance. Number 2 is that there should be, I would fully support this, I would support having something like a Marshall Plan for the entire country to make sure that the East is rebuilt and it's rebuilt honestly without corruption. I think that there's too much still to lose not to look the other way. There are too many hotheads, particularly in Kiev, and people in Washington that want to settle scores. It's pathological. They go to work in their air-conditioned car to their air-conditioned office, and then they play God. They play warlord over the lives of hundreds of thousands, millions of people in eastern Ukraine. That it's just unconscionable. What I would like to see is that Europe come together and work with Russia to try to find a solution for Ukraine. Because if we don't, Ukraine and its problems will plague Europe for generations to come. You guys are going to have to pay for it. And then when people start going over the border, are you going to build a Berlin Wall to keep the Ukrainians out? Think about that. Think about that. So you guys better think ahead because it's going to be your headache and a big one. And you have other countries, you look at Spain, Italy, Greece, you have all your other problems with the Eurozone, and now you want to take on Kiev. Was anybody thinking on the night of February 22nd in the capitals of Europe when you supported this coup?
It's very interesting because we have seen when the West and Russia come together and cooperate, the actual success of that. Like, for instance, the Iran nuclear deal, especially in such a fragile moment in our history where Russia cannot be excluded from the international scene. Otherwise, problems will not be solved.
Well, my friend, you're thinking logically, but you're not thinking politically, unfortunately. And look at what happened here. Vladimir Putin saved Barack Obama from another war in the Middle East by negotiating an end of Syria's poison weapons program, right? Remember that? Well, I'll tell you, the people in the U.S. State Department, people like Victoria Nuland, went through the ceiling. They don't want Vladimir Putin to help with Iran, with Syria, with Ukraine. No, they don't want Russian help. They want to destroy Russia. They want to break it up. They want to mine it for all its resources. And they say that they have liberal ideas, but everything they do is illiberal. It's extraordinary. It is the most contradictory view of the world that you can possibly imagine. Anything justifies the end. And this is what we have. They don't want Russia to be a partner. And this country will have to wait it out until the United States can get itself together and understand that. Because Russia is just going to make its own relations in the world. If the U.S. doesn't want to cooperate, because it's not Russia that doesn't want to cooperate with the U.S., it's the other way around.
What I strongly urge is a political dialogue on all levels. And what I will do from here, for instance, in Sweden, is to try to inform people in the most objective manner that I can, because I am a bit disappointed on the Swedish news portrayal of Russia, and there is absolutely no second opinions, no discussions, no debates, and it's actually making me worried I will try to promote peace, and this is my opinion, I don't stand for NATO membership. I think it's completely useless. We have never needed NATO, and I don't see why we will need them in the future. So I just want to thank you for joining our show, and that our listeners have gotten enlightened on the situation and different points of views that we have regarding these concerns, that I hope we will find a common solution. And I believe that you and alternative media can play a very important part in this.
I agree with your sentiments completely. If people would have more access to the facts instead of just unfounded opinions, that way we're not going to get anything solved. Things will only get worse. But if you can just say, here are the facts, verifiable, and I'm not using my facts and you're not using your facts, but we try to understand the same set of facts, then I think we can make some progress. But at this point in time, I remain remarkably pessimistic. Sorry.
Do you have any final words for our Swedish audience to think about?
Well, yeah, I would just say, when it comes to NATO, I think, Sweden has always been at the forefront in looking at security issues. It is a small country, has a small population, and it's done really well for itself. It's a country that is widely admired throughout the world for really good reasons. I would be very disappointed, and I'm an American citizen, to see Sweden join a military alliance that has a very dubious present job description. I mean, look what happened in Libya. We should all be ashamed of what happened there. It shouldn't have happened that way. And that was NATO, at its best, quote unquote. I don't think Sweden wants to be associated with something like that. And plus, Sweden and Russia, we share very similar spaces geographically. We should do everything in our possible to be on the same side all of the time, instead of being in organizations that will simply divide us and push us further apart. And I would really hope that won't happen.
Great. Thank you so much, Peter. This was Peter Lavelle from Crosstalks RT. You can always tune in to RT.com and Crosstalks to see more of him. Thank you again, Peter.
My pleasure. It was really a lot of fun. Bye-bye.
Thank you.